Hello and welcome back, everyone, for another exciting week of corporate Valorant here at CEA. Sir Waltman Moxie here, ready to cast this game between Off Your Feed and Senator We Run Ads. Both Facebook teams here, Mox. This is a little bit exciting, a little bit of intercompany scuffle.
Yeah, both of these teams gonna be trying to vie for that top spot, but we already know one team is coming at just a little bit of an advantage when it comes to that first map. From the team sheets, Senator We Run Ads have said that their favorite map is anything but Icebox, and Icebox is going to be the exact thing that pops up. And I, for one, I love this. It's my EU heritage, but Icebox at the moment has seen this massive big shift towards the meta where we're seeing Viper come up so many times on this map because she's just so good with the toxic screen at blocking at all of those vertical line of sights. And what is Icebox so known for? Well, people going to teleport onto those crates with an operator and immediately take you out before the fight can start.
Absolutely valuable information there, Mox. And I want to cover something you did mention before. You said that the first map we're going to be seeing here today is Icebox. Normally, we would run a best of one, but here, these two teams have agreed, since there's that intercompany rivalry going on, that we're going to be running a best of three this time. We're going to be starting on Icebox, moving on to Bind if necessary, and then, well, it will be necessary, and then Ascent if necessary, rather.
Yeah, that second map is definitely necessary in the best of three format. I know We Run Ads, you can already see it's teased at the moment. The mic is hovering over that Viper. Off Your Feet have already locked in their composition. They're going for this duelist setup so that you can have the Reyna and the Jet be the ones to just aggressively go forward, get that kill. And Icebox is one of those maps, like many in Valorant, where the second that you get that first kill going into your favor, the numbers advantage, all of the recontests, it really is just a lot easier to take. And it definitely means that they have a strong start, but where they are going to struggle if this Viper does come through is actually getting out safely. You remember, when you go through all of that Viper utility, you do actually get put into that state where you'll be taking double damage if you're still stuck inside it. And if Senator We Run Ads decide to go with this Phoenix and Jet alongside the Viper, well, you've definitely got the mobility and the flashes to allow you to get aggressive and capitalize on that moment.
A very aggressive team seeming to be coming through from Senator's side, which I'm probably going to be shorthanding it to from now. And it does look like we're not going to be seeing any change ups here for the attacking team. It will be the Viper, the Sage, the Omen, the Jet, and the Phoenix.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Viper is more known for Icebox defense, so it's going to be a couple of moments until we see whether or not it will be that default B defense coming out from the Viper for them. Until now, we do get to see Off Your Feed running on that defense. And you know what? They're going to have a lot of information. Neither of these teams are running the Cypher, but Off Your Feed do have that Sova. And I, for one, like to run the Sova on Icebox myself just because of the amount of information you can find with that Recon Bolt. You can set it up all the way from rafters and it will land right on the entrance onto that A side as they move out of attacker spawn, and just that little bit of information can be absolutely crucial. Because if you do allow the attacking team to get onto those sites, well, all of the angles that should be there for the defense just hold a corner and hide behind, which it is noted has actually been smoothed out. A couple of those corners were a little bit too brutal to be allowing you to hold. Well, those very quickly turn against the defense.
As we can see, a lot of action going down on mid. Omni Mike with that Viper looking to hold in, but it's going to be the Phoenix that tries to push in with the curveballs, trying to catch out that member that they know is weak, and D'Angelo taking down Iceberg. Going to be starting off pretty strong for their team, but it's equalized with a kill onto Fire Gred. And now, as we look ahead, things are looking a little bit equalized, but perhaps just a bit more favorable for the attacking team. At least that was the case until Teddy Town starts to strike back. Omni Mike on the heels of that Sova, it seemed.
Just gonna be a little bit of a lull in action now as the spike is planted. Off Your Feet want to try and go for the kills. The Viper's still in play, and that's something that you do have to worry about. Utility all up for Omnimike. Holding on, can block out, split Off Your Feed into two parts so that you can try and take out each fight individually. The Fuse starting to come through. The Sankyu will give away where they are. And now it's just the Jet, but there's no fake in play. Omnimike waits just a little bit too long to try and contest it, and Pigmaster is able to get a defuse cleanly and safely.
And Omni Mike couldn't even get that kill, turns away for just a second as Pigmaster reveals themselves, allowing for Pigmaster to get a little bit better of the turn there. A final kill going in their favor. Not necessary, but certainly a little bit enjoyed from the Off Your Feet team.
Yeah, and now if you're Senator, they're doing what every attacking team so often does after losing that first pistol and trying to keep all of the economy so that they can bring it onto that third round. Off Your Feet should be walking away with this round Wolfen. And if they don't, it's definitely going to be a big upset in terms of cash they're able to bring through.
Cash they're able to bring through, and cash that perhaps their opponents might not need to, as they will have assumably a little bit more better possession of those weapons. But now as we look here, a lot of action again going down in mid, but we're tuned in with Iceberg trying to go towards this A site, or at least saddling up towards it, not necessarily locking in too firmly on this push, although they will be running into Pigmaster if they lean in high. Tennytown getting the better of Sandrith. It would already be a nice lead for Off Your Feet, who now looking to just regain themselves, not get too aggressive on their defensive hold here, as it looks like the repositioning is going to come in for that A push from the attackers.
Well, you do get spotted out. Pigmaster knows exactly where that Phoenix is playing and sees the spike as well.
No.
So remember, with those ghosts and the stingers, you are going to get so much more spray down.
I got the spike.
Unfortunate spot there as Iceberg actually gets caught with that curveball ability out, prevents that spike from being planted as Firegrid gets taken down by the Jet in similar fashion. D'Angelo now has the opportunity to get the defuse here. Nobody to worry about walking in on him.
Well, it should be noted that since for a very light buy, we're actually able to get that spike planted in the ground, which means they will get just a little bit of extra cash. And for a team that didn't really have much chance going into this round on that economy and the weaponry that they were coming in with, they've got to be pretty happy with themselves, right? You were able to get that extra little bit of money, you'll be able to get the rifles up in this round, and Off Your Feet, because they lost a couple of people, they're still going to be sticking with those SMGs. Pigmaster, no surprise, is going to be opting for the Sheriff. You'll be able to get close enough with the jet mobility, but everyone else is going to be trying to get that spray, and you've got to pre-fire these angles. If you're going in with a Stinger up against things like Vandals and Phantoms, then you're just not going to be able to win that fight on time.
No surprise here, Pigmaster going to be bringing out the knives, firing through the gate. Those gates can be absolutely crucial there, as Wild Taco does eventually return a kill with the Vandal. That firepower proving to just be a little bit overwhelming here. D'Angelo, however, catching everybody from behind. Omnimike going to be falling, pushes towards Tendytown, causes the downfall of Senator Rerun, adds at least that front line. It's going to be the Sage trying to get away, does take down the Reyna on the way out, though.
Yeah, that gate. Sometimes you just don't expect that angle to get hit, and that's something that Senzo didn't really look out for. And the second that they actually lost those people to the knives, that's when we see Off Your Feet by holding those angles, even though they weren't coming in with the rifles, they were still able to get enough damage done before Senator were able to spot them out. This is something that Senator have got to be able to handle. They've got the flashes, right? The curveballs, they'll be able to set themselves up to actually walk onto this site, and that's what the Phoenix is there for. They're just not being able to get there in time. And we have to see them start to use that utility, because Pigmaster now has the up in their hands, and if you don't flash this out, or at the very least try and smoke an angle off, then someone's going to be walking right into a headshot if you try and push that A site.
It doesn't look like for the time it being that the A site is going to be the focus of Senator Rerun ads. Instead, they're going to be leaning towards that B, at least that initial zone towards B. They do have one going towards the mid section. It's going to be the Phoenix. Anytime just kind of firing through the smokes and catching Wild Taco in midair. Not quite able to connect with those knives as Wild Taco, and that might be a little bit costly here, especially in terms of that manpower. Sandra trying to take that high ground. Will be revealed though, so not going to be fooling anybody with that teleport.
Yeah, Stingers and Spectres currently equipped for that attacking side. They had the knives, but they've already lost the Jet who popped them out. And Off Your Feet should have just a very easy time gunning them down before the fight gets up close and personal. You do manage to lose your Sova, but Omnimike does not have the utility. It's already down. You've used your wall. There's nothing to try and stop you from splitting off this team as they come through.
And Pigmaster does manage to get onto site. Not quite necessary though, as D'Angelo comes in with the Vandal, allows the shots to come true. And with that, it looks like Senator Rerun ads are going to start to run away with this one a little bit, Mox.
Well, we expected that, right? Since they were coming on a pretty tough buy to make work, they were hoping that the knives would be able to up that threat that they were able to put out with that one-shot potential, but Off Your Feed, they're going to be buying into 2 ups. This is a gamble, but now you can allocate 1 up onto either site, and you know that Center are being extremely light on how they approach these points when it comes to those smokes and those flashes. Now this guarantees that this team that hasn't been using that utility to stop an upshot from coming through is going to be walking into one or the other. And Taco is already looking extremely vulnerable on Belt, but even more vulnerable as Iceberg.
Iceberg getting taken down there. You can't run it back if you're already dead. Con now going to be creeping below that tube, ready to catch out, perhaps using their ears to Don't doubt anything, although Omni Mike being a little bit quiet with their teammates there in Sandwich. As now we're seeing the team of Senator We Run Ads trying to focus through this too, perhaps waiting for that wall to drop, but it's going to buy them a bit of, or it's going to cost them a bit of time, rather.
Sometimes you just have to be a little bit slower. Especially in terms of the composition that you're playing up against. You can't just blindly walk onto one of these lines of sights. You've heard the op shot going off, you know it's in play.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, Tendytown has that angle locked down, ready to catch Omnimike as soon as they take the corner. Catches the Sage, though, knows that they'll be there coming through. Not sure if Firegrid has that same awareness. Doesn't seem to be the case. That's now Firegrid being very cautious, but Tendytown looking a little anxious. Gets caught out by Firegrid. Doesn't need that immediate awareness.
Ooh, thought about going for the res perhaps to get someone back in, but it's actually taken out before it can come through. And that's a little bit of a silver lining, right? Because in my eyes, the Senator, their best push can come in this round. They've got the Viper's Pit, they've got the run it back. So you can use, it's going to be a costly one, but you want to get that first point on your board. You can use the run it back to get that information to figure out where one of these two ops are playing, and then you just rush onto one of these sites. You've got the means of blocking an op out with the Sage Wall, you try and put the spike in as quick as you can, you put that Viper's Pit down, and one thing that an op can't do if it's faced with a Viper's Pit is see clear enough to actually get a shot on anyone's head.
Very true, Mox, but aside from the firepower, there's not going to be too much coming in from Senator. Only one Vandal on the field. And Tantalo trying to land a few shots, but the Jet quick to dip back out. A Wild Taco doesn't want to initiate into that too severely. Omnimike, seeing that that Jet drops down, might know that they have that sightline opened up, prevented from the op. And Big Master has to be a little bit careful here. Dips back as Tantalo covers their rotation there. See Khan trying to lean into this corner against the Phoenix. The Phoenix not quite able to deliver. Iceberg instead taking a little bit of a drop. Mike now getting dropped right onto the Reyna. Comes up with only one kill for the side of Senator.
Yeah, so you can see that Senator are just trying to get onto these sites as quickly as possible, but Off Your Feed are aware that they're playing up against that Viper's Pit in that moment, and they made sure that the A approach just wasn't clean. You wouldn't be able to stampede your way through, and they don't do that by spamming utility like we see Jets do, or rather Razors do. They do that with actually putting a person down that you're going to meet, and that will slow your approach, force your hand to take that fight before you're ready for it. 6 points going into the favor of Off Your Feed. Senator are starting to use the flashes. We saw the curveballs coming out from Iceberg in that engagement. Now you just have to try and push an angle where the curveball allows you to set up for a kill, because Tendytown on the Omen is going to be running that second op on B. And you can push the Omen aggressively. He doesn't have that escape tool that's available to the Jet and is allowing Pigmaster to go as aggressive as we're seeing.
But they do have the advantage of the smoke there. If that Phoenix peaks, they will get caught out. And immediately Firegrid takes down the Sage Con. Not going to have that res available, but Firegrid will, and brings back Wild Taco with the Viper Wall, keeping them alive, or keeping them, I guess, obfuscated for a brief moment. Omnimike still holding this angle, looks to lean towards that B site, and it still will have to deal with the Omen. Tendytown still in the game.
That Viper Wall just splitting this map into two, allowing Senators to cleanly move through mid without being pushed too aggressively, as Taco is now actually able to get Pigmaster out of the way and trade up to an operator themselves. This is something that you have to be very careful of if you're off your feed. You've got an Omen left, but that's the only one who can actually try and smoke one of these angles off. This is Senator's best chance at getting a point on that favor. They just have to be able to hit the shots.
Of course, Wild Taco now wielding the operator themselves. Tangelo able to take down Wild Taco, though, however, no more operator in hand. Tangelo's just trying to back out, using that Empress form to really give themselves that added push, that added benefit there. Tendytown trying to hold down these longer lanes, and somebody's going to have to get through and defuse. Might be a little bit difficult to get there if you're just relying on that operator. The defuse comes through for a brief moment, and the Viper peeks it just to make sure that nobody's actually going for it, and Tendytown takes the shot.
Beautiful bait. Citron sets it up, and your Omen is able to hit the shot. At that point, the op's just not going to miss, right? You're coming out of the smoke, you've got nothing to try and block the site. And Senators, for this team, their composition, it's the strongest when they're on the defense. Sometimes one of these sides, they're just skewed towards whether you want the attack and whether you want the defense. And Viper, when it comes to the setup and Icebox, she just is a lot stronger on the other side. So for Senators, they do want to try and get as many points as they can on this point, but it's not the end of the world. They're waiting for that side swap, and that's when they're going to get their strongest. What you don't want to happen, though, is for that side swap to come through and Off Your Feet to already be 1 point away from match point.
Certainly not an ideal situation there as well. The armory of Senator not looking that ideal either. Very short range compositions here. Wild Taco tries to push up with the Phoenix Flash, but there's not many people to catch out because of it. We've seen the Cloud Bursts come through. Tennytown taking down 3 in a rather quick fashion. Omni Mike be opting to switch their weapons here as Big Master trying to catch up, and it's going to be the Jet going right over the wall. The Sage can't quite cope with that. Firegrad does take down a 1, but just getting 1 kill, as we've seen, is not historically enough.
I like the approach. Omnimaker is just trying to get as many as they can, triple off your feed's economy, who at 8 points ahead is going to be sitting on quite a pile of cash. But since they're identifying that they can't with that weaponry, try and push onto the A site from the actual spawn, they have to try and push from mid so that they're going to be taking as less operator shots as possible by mitigating the length of the line of sight that the operator should have onto them. That budget buy has allowed them to come in. It will be a force. As we're seeing smatterings of rifles, but it's still just nothing compared to Off Your Feed's arsenal. Still got the 2 ops. Still going to be so hard to actually safely get onto one of these sites.
Really comes down to that question, Mox. Even if you manage to hurt the team's economy a little bit, might not be enough. The Sage Wall comes in through 2, but Sandra's quick to respond. Now the Hunter's Fury coming in from Citron. Gonna get caught out. Can't quite pull the operator out fast enough. And because of that, Omnimike gonna be capitalizing upon that. Looking like they missed their poison there. But now Sandra holding this angle. Doesn't quite get the drop onto Tendytown, who now gonna be backing up and just keeping eyes and ears out for that spike.
Important thing is, are you gonna let Pigmaster get a clear line of sight with that operator? Wild Taco actually is able to use the knives. This is where Pigmaster shot from and picks out their location perfectly. Now if you're off your feed, you can try and push this. You've still got the economy even if you lose all of your rifles to be able to full buy into the next one. And you know if Sensor get that first point, then they're going to be able to try and make a comeback.
No, but
they're not abandoning it.
Angelo here wrapping around, walks right into the Phoenix, gets the shot, and with that off your feed, managed to pull it through with just Tendytown and Tangelo staying alive.
Yeah, you can tell that off your feed know that Sansa's composition is going to get a lot stronger when that side swap comes through, and they're not risking anything. They want to come in with as many rounds as they can before that side swap so that they don't have to worry about getting immediately taken down if they move towards the A side or having to move through that fragile state of the Viper toxic screen if you push the B. And look, we talked about it, their economy's just been so safe right now. They can still buy an operator, they've still got rifles, they've still got heavy armors. Senators, this is what we expected. They tried to go for the rifles, they tried to force as much as they possibly could in that last round. And while yes, they can still afford mostly rifles, we are still seeing a stinger for Iceberg.
Stinger may or may not come into play here as now we look ahead. Again, Pigmaster landing the shot with that operator, Iceberg taken down, so Stinger absolutely not relevant to this conversation thus far. Angelo now going to be pushing through with that rope, or pushing ahead on the ropes, rather, as they do have the advantage off your feed in terms of that manpower. Wild Taco looking like they're saddling up to try to get some information, some sort of benefit towards A, but the question is, can they with this massive firepower overwhelming?
Well, I mean, you know the op is on A as well. The second that you move out of one of those corners, Pigmaster is just going to be waiting, and that is exactly what happens. Crossfire set up perfectly. If you push the operator, you're going to be pushing onto that Reyna, who has the layer, who has the fade ability. You're hearing from the shadows going off. Sandra is trying to scout out mid, see whether it's safe. Because they know that the operator is on A, and they can try and push B in the meantime.
Ooh, and Omni Mike having to be very careful there as the Vandal shots pierce through that wall. Citron eventually taken down for the kill there, but Cedric has to be very careful. Finds Tendytown, shoots them right into the back as Firegred does get the plant. It's going to be the res coming online as now another member drops. Pigmaster managing to get the third, make it a fourth, and with that, it's all about the defuse.
Yeah, so the wall comes through to make sure that the spike plant goes through properly, and that means that you don't have it to try and keep yourself safe after the res. And we all know the animation that you get locked into. When you res that teammate back, if you don't have the cover on your side, it's just not going to be safe in those vital seconds, and that's all Pigmaster needs. Hunters do have the Viper's Pit up again, and last time we saw them try and use it, it was just rushing onto one of these sites, drop the spike, drop the ult, and try and take control of that space, and I would love to see that going through. But you also want to save it for a round where the economy is in your favor, right? You don't want to waste that really vital push, that really vital ultimate when you're running this extremely lackluster buy.
Certainly have to agree here, and there's not too much wiggle room still operating within the side of Senator, especially with Pigmaster taking down the shot onto Fire. Gred, that Sage no longer going to be able to heal, no longer going to be able to drop those walls, perhaps as importantly. A Wild Taco does equalize, and on her feet loses that op for the moment. A Wild Taco quick to pick it up and put it into their arsenal as well. We do see now a lot of contests coming through here at A, but it looks like the defense going to be quick to respond as well. The wraparound coming in from the Reyna onto that high ground, and with this, the kills already going on to Senator's squad right now. Tandytown to be firing through that flash, but it looks like it's not going to be enough. Can't even bring it back Pigmaster, perhaps just to get their op back in hand.
Couldn't even try and go for the save. Citron does not allow that, had actually flanked around and was there to cut them off. Last round in the half, so if you're Senator, there is no reason to try and save economy. You were just going all out to try and get that round on your side. Because no one wants to go into that side swap without having a single round on their board, and they definitely do have a good shot of it, right? We talked about how you've got that Viper's Pit, you can move on to one of those points, you've got the run it back up and available as well. What the really crucial thing is that this team does not just immediately lose someone to that ARP. And off your feed, they know this. They're going to push as aggressively as we've seen them. They're going to try and take control of mid, and they've already got that first kill.
Off your feed, already starting a very strong set of kills here. Make it 3, as now it's going to be the run it back coming in perhaps a bit late, but better late than never, as Iceberg does get the positioning of that operator at the cost of their second life, I suppose. It's going to be Pigmaster taking down Sandrith, and now it's that Phoenix who has to try to make something happen, but Tandytown has other words.
Well, this, like I said, is where we're going to see Center look a lot stronger. Unfortunately, it is 12 rounds gone to off your feed first. Going to be keeping an eye on where this Viper does set up, because it's a tough strategy, right? You're always going to have your back against the wall because it's predictable. If you go and put the Viper alone onto that B site, then one, she's going to be alone and the team is going to see a toxic screen come up and they're going to try and push it. And two, if you don't send the Viper to B, then your Jet is going to be the one that's going to get overwhelmed and push. And you can already see that off your feed, they're not going for that A site. It's a lot easier to lose someone as you try and push onto A site early. It's just so much easier to get that momentum running, especially if there's only one agent holding it down. Good news is, Taco does have that escapability that comes with the Jet, with the dashes, with the updrafts.
See if they can make it happen. Taco immediately getting spotted out by the recon. Gonna make it a little bit difficult to survive, even with that mobility here. Gonna get caught out. Does take Tangelo with them. Gonna be giving the information to their team to regroup at B, as the spike is gonna be going down. Khan on the plant. Now see Khan getting ready to push through the other side of that wall. It's gonna be the opposing Sage having to be very careful here, taking a little bit of damage themselves. Iceberg finally getting regrouped, but looks like the side of Senator already suffering a little bit of damage here. And so far, not looking too bad, not looking certainly out of the woods just yet either.
Well, toxic screen is up, and you can see that off your feet are standing in the Viper utility, and it's allowing Center to get these kills to come on through. There's just a very low HP Phoenix trying to go for that diffuse in time, has one curveball, is able to get Pigmaster out of the way, but you're just running out of time. Off your feed, all they had to do was stay in that fight, not allow the Phoenix to go for that diffuse, and off your feed will walk away with the first point on the board. And you really have to feel for Senator, right? Because they came out with a composition which was geared towards Icebox that they wanted. Because we didn't get to see the Viper utility come into play for that defense, which the mentality is you walk through Garage and the toxic screen comes up, it cuts off the exit of Garage, but it's so long that it actually even crosses into mid, so you have a little bit of control over that as well. And the people that come through it, they're going to be taking damage, they're going to be going into that fragile state. You would immediately push forward really aggressively on the defending side, you get them down when they're taking double that damage, and it should be an easy day at the office. But when you're starting on the attack first, it becomes a lot less clear on where that Viper wants to play. Do you use the utility immediately as soon as the round starts to try and fake where you want to hit, or do you hold on to it for the fight of the recontest when you never know when you're going to need that toxic screen to come on up?
Certainly have to agree. But if you're a fan of Senator, aside from the fact that you didn't start on the side you wanted to, this is also their least preferred map. I believe you mentioned it early when we first started here, Mox. Their preferred map is literally anything but Icebox. And what do we get? We get Icebox. So they're gonna start looking stronger now that they're not gonna be playing on literally their least favorite map.
You have to feel as well that it's got to be in mind games, right? That Off Your Feed, these teams, they scrim regularly, so Off Your Feed obviously knows about their opponent's discomfort on that map.
Mhm.
It definitely felt like Off Your Feed picked it, knowing that it would be Senator's poison.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of perhaps the mind games, as you mentioned here. But as we look ahead now, we do know that we will be going into bind, and it will be Off Your Feed who are starting off on the defense here, Mox. Now, as far as these teams go, what kind of changes do or don't you expect?
A lot more flashes and a lot more smokes. You think about how bind operates, whether you're on the defense or the offense, you really do just have to have a lot of that control over the spacing when it comes to those line of sights. Hooker can be extremely contested territory for both of those sides, and you'll actually see people pick up the sky just so that they can spam guiding lights at the back of the point to make sure that they just absolutely chuggle anyone who's trying to walk through Hooker, and you've got 3 of them. You can take your time. That's all of the rotations that you need.
We'll certainly find out here in Mox. Don't worry, I'm sure there's still at least a small possibility that we'll be seeing some Yoru. Looks like Off Your Feed might
He's gonna
be
break my heart.
a little bit, maybe.
He's teasing it, but he's going to break my heart. I'm trying not to think the possibility, the likelihood of actually seeing this Yaru being locked in, instead going to be looking at, no surprises, Raze, Sky, all of these agents just really do flourish in terms of bind, where you have all of these cramped up quarters that you're forced to play in. If you think about how Raze works, the more cramped the space is, the more value Raze is going to find with those utilities, which when you throw them out, they immediately spawn another couple of paint shells that force you into a corner, and oh my goodness, he actually locked it.
Ooh. Well, it looks like the optimist in us wins again, Mox. We do get to see it coming out here. And of course, you're going to be very good for those kind of things where you can, fake out the opposing team, use those footsteps to perhaps, make them think you're going right, but then punch them from the left hand.
And Bind is one of those just mind game maps, right? Where you've got the teleporters that come into play, you've got even Viper that was running it for that fake with the wall cutting through the A site. And Tangelo should be able to get some pretty nice early round fake outs to come through to force you to think that, okay, maybe someone's pushing Hooker or maybe someone's pushing A short, and try and pull out that really quite important utility of all of these flashes coming through, because what we're going to have is Sandra picking up the Breach, and the Breach is one of the best agents at stopping rush pushes. The second that you hear anything coming towards you, you're going to be pulling out those 3 flashpoints.
So perhaps now going from a more offensive look to one that's maybe a bit more defensive, a little bit more able to hold their ground a little bit, or at least stop the momentum of your opponents, might be a decent look from Senator. We'll have to see how it, I guess, realizes in actuality. Is now take a little bit of a look at the weapons coming through here, looking very similar on both sides, with a Frenzy being the difference.
Oh, this was the baby of the old patch, because you used to be able to buy the Frenzy and the armor, but now the Frenzy got a little bit of a price increase off them, so you can't afford both. You've got to go one for the other, but Frenzy is still very nice for that spray. Ghost is very good for those headshots, and no surprises that it will be the Jet picking that one up as you try and push on that very long B long. But surprised, you can already hear that first guiding light going out to make sure that the rush push just can't come through.
It's going to be that guy continuing to throw in those birds, continuing to get the blinds out. And Pigmaster going to be choosing to rotate back with their Brimstone. And Firegrid able to take down one. Citron no longer has that AoE healing, has those Hawks available to stall out any pushes that might come through. And speaking of pushes that are coming through, it looks like Senator really is trying to lean in here as the plant does decide to go down. Pigmaster takes down one, make it a second as well. Now hangs back in towards that elbow area. Now we're seeing the rotations come through. It looks like just the overwhelming power from Off Your Feed able to overwhelm Senator's team.
Sky is just such an impressive agent to walk into, especially early on in the round, right? Those guiding lights just set you up perfectly to get collapsed upon, and all of these angles that Senator are trying to push. They push Hooker, they push B long. You're always going to find yourself at the wrong end of a guiding light if you continue to go for that pathing, and it really does force this team to put their sights closer towards that A site. But the thing is, off your feed, they're going to be expecting this as well. They've got the Raze playing there, and you don't want to push A short because we talked about that Raze utility, how much damage you're going to be taking just absolutely spammed into your backside as you try to take any step closer to that site.
Do indeed know how damaging that Raze can be at these close quarters, but now it looks like the armor is going to be a little bit more equalized for both of these teams. Neither one really just deciding to stay on to those pistols. As we see Tendytown send out that boom bot just to try to snuff out anybody, but looks like it's not going to be finding anything for them, as now Senator going to be the ones taking advantage here. The Brimstone down, lacking that smoke, lacking the stim beacon as well from Khan. Going to be regretting it perhaps just a little bit, but we've seen many times before where Senator lacks that 1 or 2 members, and is up that 1 or 2 members and still just can't quite pull it out.
Well, they are pushing that A sure because they saw that Sky utility, they saw the Trailblazer coming on first, so they know that they're not going to get flashed if they try and push it. Unfortunately, they've still got to contest this Raze, the utility, just making sure that you always stay at an arm's length. It allows Tendytown to get all of this spray through completely unimpeded until that kill comes.
Yeah, Tendytown definitely going to be playing both sides of that box and using their abilities to really just put the clamps onto Senator's team. It's going to be really tough to overcome that, but if you're on the side of Senator, you do still walk away knowing that it wasn't a complete wipe.
Yeah, and we're seeing as well that they're trying to figure out where these key components of Off Your Feet are playing, and the Sky is the one that they have to figure out first, right? The Sky is the one that potentially has that immediate round startup kill. And so the second that they're able to figure out where the Sky is, they can push another site, know that they're very less likely to lose an agent pushing there if the Sky is on the other side of the map. But Off Your Feet are going to get pretty aggressive, knowing that they have not been challenged in showers before.
And it looks like Tendytown going to be pushing ahead, but Omni Mike not letting that happen, instead getting the first kill. Tendytown not going to have those grenades to really impact these claustrophobic areas. Citron, however, does turn things around with the kill onto Wild Taco. We see the Silva shock arrows coming through into Hookah, really mitigating that area, or at least making it feel a little bit more threatened. As well, we do see the Brimstone smokes, making it harder to go through that window. Khan saddling towards the window, knowing that it's going to be a little bit safer. Does keep eyes up, but not necessarily towards that courtyard fire. Gred now just waiting, sees that the smokes are cleared, and not really going in with their team, or at least not taking the same peaks at the same time. And Citron as well, guarding this window, might make it a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, especially with that one guiding light still colored in. That's why Senators are just not pushing that site. The second you reveal yourself in Hooker, that guiding light's going to be coming out, and off if you'd have the agents there to try and capitalize on the flash. A site is going to be where they push. It is going to be the lesser defended, but off your feed sensing that they're not pushed on the B, they're going to start that rotation as quickly as they can, and that is going to be even more effective. Hunter's Fury pushing through, and no one can try and take Tangelo down.
And it's going to be Fire Grid taking down Citron as they have their abilities out, or rather the knife out, I believe. As now Fire Grid has to try to go in and contest that defuse, but it's not going to be able to do too much. That Silva very low, but doesn't matter if you don't get the kill.
Beautiful play coming out from off your feed, using that Hunter's Fury to force Senators to be more concerned about getting out of the way of the ultimate than actually being able to stop Tangelo, who manages to run over them with 2 kills coming up very quickly. Senators were on a little bit of a tougher buy though, setting up for this very round, as we will see the rifles, the heavy armor coming in. I do like how this attacking team are playing. They're taking it a lot more cautiously. They know if they rush in, the off your feed do have the tools to slow that push down, and that they are very likely to lose agents that they need alive, that Killjoy especially when that spike goes through. And for Senator, it's all about holding on to this utility as long as they can. If it does become the recontest, you want the flashpoints to come down. Off your feed, they can afford to just put all of this utility in very early. A Citron gets so much information, you don't need to be running the cipher if you can get that sign key that you blinded someone.
Yeah, very crucial element of that ability there. Very crucial as well are the 2 kills that off your feed able to get on 2 Senators, make it a third now as Citron takes the headshot onto Iceberg. Takes a little bit of damage, but has one of those guiding lights available to chase down that jet. Wild Taco, however, going to be able to get the kill and get out. Yoru does hit the blind off the wall, but is not able to get closed upon, as now they do have that smoke blocking them, or rather the jet through the smoke blocking their own line of sight. Tangelo throwing in the steps, just trying to cause a little bit of confusion there. OmniMike has to be very careful, as they might have some people starting to follow up on their backside.
Oof, Tangelo tried to use the fake out. in the hopes that Taco actually thought they'd pitter-patted their way back through a short, but this is why Yoru isn't run typically in meta, right? People have learned not to trust that footstep. They wait, they hold their angles, they know how you're likely going to be playing, especially if you picked up that agent. It is still possible for Senses to take this point. They've moved on to that B site, and off your feed, well, they will have the members to be able to go for a recontest. They have started to gravitate far closer to the A.
And now, as we see, it looks like Senator's not really leaning in for a too quick of a plant. They will eventually get on to point the Killjoy. Gonna be dropping it there. Off your feet has to realize at this point that Spike does not get planted at A. It's gonna be at B, and now we're gonna be seeing them go through that teleporter. The question is, will Senators be able to respond here as gonna be off your feet coming in through this Hookah Khan, leading the charge, ready to throw down some smokes, it seems. They are going to be landing, blocking off elbow, blocking off that entry from Courtyard. And the showstopper now coming in as well. Tendytown perhaps getting a bit too aggressive with it. Doesn't quite land the shots, and it looks like Senator's luck might just have turned around here, Mox.
Oh, beautiful play from Senators. Able to hold their call. They hear the teleporter, they know that they're going to be getting collapsed on from Hooker, but they also see that the showstopper is in play. And the second that you actually come away from those crates, well, your Killjoy is going to get absolutely altered in the face. Because they're able to just stay in the crates, we see the showstopper instead go towards elbow. It does not manage to connect. Santa is able to get that first round on the board, and they do have the lockdown. That means that if they want to push onto these sites really quickly, they have the means to immediately force off your feet away, but off your feet can just as easily go aggressive. Zeke is called in for Citron, and that gives you so much information, but not only that, an opening as Santa will be running for their lives. They won't be ready to take that fight.
We see Citron send out those blinding lights, able to get that information. Angelo seeing their opponent in that breach as well. Not going to be choosing to take that dual Tendytown. Holding showers here as it looks like this Jet going to be pushing up a Wild Taco, ready to take the shots. Fires a little bit through the wall. It's going to be that Raze taking about half damage, and instead you're going to realize that perhaps the Raze might be a little bit better at firing into showers than they are out of it. So now it's going to be Tendytown holding this corner, trying to be a little bit more aggressive, and Angelo as well, keeping an eye on Shower still.
Being very patient on Senators, trying to figure out where they want to play, but off your feet are likewise very patiently holding these angles, knowing that Senators will have to run into them, and that's why Khan is more than happy to hold Garden. The spray is perfect. Senators not able to set up a crossfire, and now you've only got one breach, and you're stuck on a short as Tendytown goes hunting.
30 seconds.
Tendytown goes hunting, but finds nothing with that. Sandra's going to be taking the headshot and pulling the Phantom away as well. Now Sandra has to go for that bomb, or go for the spike rather, trying to relocate it, but it's right at the entry to that teleporter. A lot of entryways to get to it, but the only way to leave is apparently through a headshot.
I think I would have rather preferred to see a save coming through, especially with the economy just being pretty precarious for Senators. They can catch up still, it's not that 5-point difference, which heralds a lot of the economy just immediately closing in and not allowing you to catch up, but it also means that you're only going to be able to get 2 rifles into play, and you do have the knives. So Tackle will still be a big old threat, but off your feed, they've got the Orbital Strike, and Orbital Strike combined can be absolutely devastating. You can't try and push Showers as a team, you can't try and push Hooker as a team, because this Brimstone's just going to be waiting with that ultimate prepped. Vigrid's actually going to be trying to use that layer very early on. Here's the guiding light, knows that this guy is playing. Does not want to get early killed.
The question is, would this guy push up if the sound cue didn't go off? It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. And already Senator's team taking a lot of damage there. They're going to be trying to regather the spike. Firegrad able to pick it up. Here's the movements coming in from the Sova. Can't quite connect to Pigmaster with that. Going to be getting their third. It's just a lone Jet Wild Taco here. Not going to be bringing out the knives as it's not quite necessary with the Vandal in hand. We're trying to play very carefully, but Pigmaster managed to put a 4th up, and Wild Taco stood no chance.
Yeah. Scientists, they need to get these first kills coming through, and only then, if the economy isn't in their favor, are we going to see them try and use these ultimates to actually get onto these sites, because they are extremely risky. And that means on this half you don't want to drop a lockdown in the Bulldog, the Stinger. One rifle going to be coming out for Icebook, and the From the Shadows could be devastating paired up with it. Right, if you're able to get in, even if you have to immediately get out, you'll get so much information on what off your feet are playing. Citron has just been the bane of this team's existence. They don't want to push an area until they know where this guy is.
Sandra's going to be returning Flash with Flash, making sure that Citron can't push up too aggressively here. But again, you'd prefer to keep that breach utility in until you have to go in, forcing the recontest. But Tendytown taking down 2 means that the recontest might not be necessary, as the bomb does drop on that A site. Now the paint grenade coming in from Tendytown. The Boombot as well, putting Omni Mike in a very uncomfortable position. And it's going to be 2 taken down for this attacking team. But the question is, will they be able to maintain this momentum? Sandra going to be going for the spike plant. It does eventually land, but both members standing very weak. Able to dance around Khan for a little bit, but eventually the shots connect.
Iceberg tries to use from the shadows to get onto that high ground, but Angelo was expecting it. Defuse should come through, and if you're sent it, yes, you weren't able to get the round, but you were able to pull Hunter's Fury away from off your feed, and that's another reason why you don't feel comfortable pressing in with that lockdown, right? So often do we see the lockdown go in, the team puts so much into being able to successfully rush onto one of these sites, and then the opposing server just ults, and your best card at keeping the defense away from that recontest just goes up in a poof of smoke. Rifles will be coming out, or as many as they can afford. There will still be a stinger for Iceberg, but this is still one of the best buys this team has been able to make since this series started. And that lockdown is still colored in. If they want to get aggressive, if they want to force off your feed out, this is the time to do it, especially now that your guiding light didn't manage to get a kill.
And Mox, we're talking about, adaptation here. How long before Senators just kind of secede that Citron's going to be holding that middle hookah area just too aggressively to start pushing into like that on the initial? We see it now as Citron does manage to get the kill onto the Killjoy, and now things are looking a little bit uncomfortable for Senators.
That's the absolute worst kill for these attacking sides to suffer. Guiding Light comes through, Leia will be triggered as well, so Hooker is able to keep themselves alive in Hooker and spray down the Sova, but Iceberg is the one to actually finish them off. If you'd only have 2 remaining agents, the showstopper's still in play. If you really want to go for this recontest, especially with Tangelo, no one's smoking him until 2 kills come through.
Tangelo still does have that ethereal form online. Sandra taken down. The Vandal proving too strong, and Tangelo proving too proficient here. Wild Taco trying to hold off, trying to keep this side possessed. Does take a flash, and it looks like Tangelo's going to get taken down. And I may have spoken too soon about the Killjoy going down.
Yeah, Taco able to clutch it out, and Senses are able to get that second round on the board. And we talked about adaptation in that round, right? And how Citron has always been playing this one angle. And off your feed, well, yes, it's extremely obvious where Citron is going to be playing. They've also made it pretty hard for Santa to try and punish this. Because one person will actually play through Teleporter, so that when the guiding light comes through, if Citron is getting pushed, then you can actually set up a pretty nice crossfire. That and Sky is just extremely hard to catch. That's why Citron has no fear. The best thing that Senses can do is actually hold this angle, wait until the guiding lights, the Trailblazers, are exhausted, and then push when you're out of utility.
With that, the guiding lights come through. Another one as well. Citron doesn't manage to get the kill, though. It's going to be Sandra taking advantage of that one. Wild Taco does go down for the Senators team. Come through, not quite going to be operable this time around. And now it's the orbital strike. Not quite connecting with anything. Khan does, however, get the kill with the Phantom. Standard hold kill there. Tangelo trying to fire away with the Vandal. Doesn't quite lock on as well. And now Senators team looking very low, very uncomfortable. Tangelo manages to catch the wraparound from Fire Grid, and things are looking very good for this defending team.
We are seeing, though, that Senators are able to deal with the Sky. Citron was not able to get as much, and actually the way that the Sky has been playing so predictably for all of these rounds in a row, Senators were able to punish it. What they weren't able to punish, unfortunately, was that orbital strike coming through. I do believe it actually managed to catch out that Killjoy lockdown, and so Senators, they were relying on that one to force off your feed away, but off your feed had been sitting on that ultimate. Now you've got to worry about the Hunter's Fury, and that's the problem for Senators. Every time they're able to deal with one problem, another one just pops immediately up, and off your feed are doing a very good job of posing a big difficulty on a variety of fronts. And for Senators, they can do so much to keep Citron away to make sure that that Sky just isn't a problem, but any utility you use for the Sky, you won't have to deal with Tangelo.
We are going to be seeing that dimensional drift come through from Tangela Firegrid. Going to be seeing them for the time being, and it looks like Tangela is going to be dropping back because of it. Firegrid throws in the Leer, not able to lock onto anything though. Meanwhile, Khan taking down Wild Taco once again. Looks like the Blinding Lights didn't quite catch Sandrith with that, despite popping right over their heads. We're going to be seeing the abilities as well come through, just trying to hold lines of sight with this hookah possession.
They just don't have enough smokes though. You've got the Omen, but he's the one carrying the spike, so you don't want to put yourself into that position where you could potentially drop it in hookah by trying to use that dark cover to land in the doorway of B back. And so if they were able to get a kill, they would have been able to turn around and go for that B site. And the fact that they're actually still pushing on that B site is making Off Your Feet think maybe it's a bait play, but they're also not seeing where that spike is, and Tangela is just waiting in lamps for that spray to be able to just come through. And I do like that Senators, they're just waiting. They're being extremely passive in the hopes that Off Your Feet are actually going to play themselves out of the point.
And it does look like that raise has been repositioned, but Off Your Feet, not going to be falling for it, at least in terms of Khan taking that kill. Sees the Omen as well, connects, and that's where the spike is going to go down. Hookah, now the one spot that Omni Mike has to try to make it to if they don't get these kills. Does get the one onto Khan, though, so that's a decent start.
10 seconds left.
You do manage to get one, but you also just don't have enough time to be able to get that spike and plant it, so now it's just trying to bring that weapon with you. Off Your Feet are going hunting, and they will be able to find you, but they won't be able to win the duel. Omni Mike able to get 2, and able to bring a Vandal into that next round. This could be huge for Senators. They need every weapon they can possibly get, as that point differential is just not allowing this economy to be clean. When you're already struggling to go up against this absolute arsenal of flashes and smokes and mind games that Off Your Feet are posing, well, you want to try and grab every advantage you can possibly get.
Certainly have to agree there. Omni Mike looking very good in that teleporter, managing to put a few more notches in their belt. But now, as this buy phase initiates, we're seeing the grenades come out from Raze, just trying to choke down that the A short lanes here. And now it looks like B long is going to be the area of fighting as these kills are coming through. Pigmaster managing to get 2, going to be coming out victorious over their opponents so far. It looks like the Jet sees Pigmaster, has to dash out. It's going to be Wild Taco taken down with that Defenders, adding another point.
One thing I would love to see from Senators is just them to push the A site. Because in all of these rounds, we've seen the biggest problems that they're facing, and as soon as the round starts, is that Skye, and this guy has always been playing that B site. If you're able to push A, yes, you have to split your team, you have to be able to take control of A short and showers at the same time, but it also means that you're only going to be going up against the Yarrow and potentially the Raze, who's just going to be spamming that utility in. And now Tendy Town has picked up an operator, which means you do have to contest that weapon, but Khan's picked up one as well. Off Your Feet did this in Icebox, and now you're going to be forced to take them to the op, no matter what site you push.
And it looks like that operator not going to be in effect here for that defense, at least on that B site. And this is a good opportunity here. We're talking about the necessity, perhaps, or the perceived necessity of pushing to that A site, but now not quite as needed when you're already a couple members up. The smokes are going to be dropping onto spawn, onto defender spawn, and towards elbow 4B. The question remains, can the attackers make anything happen? But no, they're just going to take the teleporter. At least a few will, leaning into that A site.
Oh, perfect. Off Your Feet. They're actually all out of position. It's just Tangela waiting. We know what a monster Tangela can be with those mechanics, but Echo does have the spike and an operator, and now attacking Killjoy Lockdown going to come through, but Tangelo has the aggression. You've been able to buy all of the time you need for Off Your Feet's rotation to come through. They'll be able to walk away with the point. In terms of the mind games, they tried to run them out. They tried to go for the bait play that we see so often on Bind. But unfortunately, Tangelo was just able to buy just enough time. For that bait game, everything Senator did to try and push Off Your Feet towards that B side. Oh, time runs out. Sides will swap. And that's good news for Senators. They have to be able to win pistols. They need to start the economy on their side. Otherwise, Off Your Feet are just going to get extremely aggressive with a stack that excels in that momentum with the smokes, with the flashes, all in their favor.
And once again, it looks like, to no surprise, it's going to be the Frenzy that is the separator between these two arsenals. 2 Ghosts, 2 Classics, and of course the one Frenzy from Tendy Town for Off Your Feet. Again, looks like it might be a little bit more powerful in terms of armory, but it's not going to matter if Tendytown goes down, and the grenade not going to be finding too much either. Wild Talking continues to fire through the Omen smoke, doesn't find a lot, but lands a couple of shots onto that Brimstone, meaning that now that Brimstone has to be a little bit more careful. Sandra gets caught out with the blind, with their abilities, but not too aggressive coming in from Citron to able to hold them up.
Especially with that regrowth coming through, you can afford to take a couple of pot shots. As showers will still be contested. If you do want that space, if they push that A side, they know that they can't actually move Tangelo through A short until Showers has a presence. As Icebook is just blind firing into that smoke in the hopes that you're able to pick the Yoru up. The more time that burns away, the more comfortable senses get to feel, but rotation will have to come through. A site and Showers specifically not being pushed means that you have a feeling that Spike is headed towards a completely separate part of the map, and they are right. They'll be able to catch off your feed off, but not before this team have been able to get through Hookah.
Yeah, fortunately, it's going to be Senators who have that Killjoy utility set up, trying to mitigate those pushes as much as possible. Firegrad able to take down Tangelo. A good opening there. All right, good continuation of events. Citron not able to land the right clicks onto the Omen. Does take a little bit of a loss there in their teammates, but Pigmaster looking to turn things around. Omnimike as well, holding that site with that Killjoy, able to use that turret, able to use their damage as well. Going to be picking up a Ghost, adding a little bit more oomph to their arsenal. Sandra going to be turning this corner, catches the Sky, and the defenders managed to put some more points on their side of the field.
Sense is breathing a big sigh of relief. They needed to win that pistols, otherwise
Yes.
Off-Your-Feed would have been creeping closer and closer to that match point, ending the series, and since their economy just would not allow them, every round would have to be a force buy from here until we see that 14th score popping up for Off-Your-Feed. They have a lot of potential in this composition, right? The Killjoy utility can be absolutely crucial in defense when you just take so much damage stepping onto nanoswarms before that Spike even gets to plant onto the ground. Even more crucial though is going to be the Marshal. Omnimike's going to be forcing onto it, trying to get an early pick in the hopes that Off-Your-Feed going to be going light on the armor, which means heavy damage if the Marshal hits the shot.
Sandra, as we saw, trying to hold into Showers, but that's not going to be the route that the attacking team is going to be opting into. Instead, it's all going to be coming through from short. Khan getting really aggressive with those submachine guns, going to be trying to find it. And does find one, as a matter of fact. Citron now leading in, tries to take the duel with the Reyna, but it's going to be Tendytown who actually comes out a little bit more victorious in that. Now that Raze trying to hold in, but it looks like the breach was able to wrap around Citron. Taken down means that those flashes not as relevant here. It's going to be the teleport coming through as Off-Your-Feed do still have Spike in hand, although their teammates might be hurting a little bit more.
Really good rotation as well from Omnimike, who has the teleporter coming through. Pigmaster is able to get away from Hooker and plant the Spike, but there's the Killjoy utility, already dropped to 22 HP. They're going to know exactly where that Spike is and where that Sova should be, but they might not be expecting Tendytown to still be playing in Hooker.
Can't quite find anything that they necessarily need. The Omen smoke will come out. It's going to be the first tick diffused, and despite the recon bolt, it's going to be a quick revert out from Iceberg. Omnimike trying to hold down onto the smoke, has to be very careful. Takes the shot onto the Sova, and now it's all a matter of playing for that time game. It's going to be the Raze who does get the advantage onto the defenders there, with Omnimike dropping.
Really good sense of timing coming out from Tendytown. Waits until the diffuse comes through, just a couple of seconds in case it's a fake and you're going to be walking into a scope to Marshal, and then as soon as you realize that that diffuse is actually coming through for real, you're able to take the fight, because the Marshal, the second that you actually see the Raze, you have to take your finger off the diffuse and you've got to set the scope up, and just in that time alone you lose the duel for Senators. And that's gonna cost them, right? They're trying to force every single one of these rounds spend as much money as they possibly can. This time is going to be the pistols coming out for the defense, but Off-Your-Feed 2 points away from taking us to an end of this series.
Certainly shall see how this levels out. We're seeing Firegrad hold these boxes very firmly. Takes the shot, sees this guy, can't quite land any of the shots, and with that Off-Your-Feed now have a great advantage here. Going to be the Killjoy utility trying to come out and making the push through Hookah. A little bit more painful, but not quite enough. Tendytown actually taking down their own teammate with a paint grenade. Going to be a little bit of a misfire there, as now this might be the opportunity for Senators to turn things around. It's just going to be Tendytown really wishing they had their other teammate right about now.
One Raze does have the spike, so if you want to plant it, it will give away your position, but you will be able to get that economy, and that's why Santas are already making sure that you're not going to be able to actually stick on that site. Tiny Time's just looking for a kill. Knows the situation that Santas are in, that they're likely spending as much currency as they possibly can every single one of these rounds to get the best chance. And make sure off your feet don't hit that match point. Tiny Time will be able to get one, be able to plant the spike in a couple seconds, but Andrew hears the Q and is able to wrap around, pick up the kill, and Santas live to breathe. It's off your feet still not hitting that 12 mark.
An excellent play coming through there. And again, I gotta talk about it. Tiny Town throwing in that paint can and getting the kill onto their teammate. That is so unfortunate. And it definitely seemed to cost them on that round.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like, Raze gives and Raze taketh away. As well as the Hunter's Fury, and this is something that Off Your Feet are going to be able to hold on to, right? If they want to just brute force their way onto one of these points, free up some space. Sensors won't be able to hold closely, won't be able to hold as a pack, or even play buddy system, and the chances that two of them get taken out by that Sovereign, and Off Your Feet can get aggressive off the back.
We see Off Your Feet getting aggressive through that along on B. As we try to see them leaning in here, it's going to be the showstopper from Tendy Town, trying to find anybody, but can't quite connect. Does buy a lot of space on the point, though. Firegrad able to take down Tangelo. Now the spike does get planted, and it looks like Wild Taco coming in through Hookah. It's a good spot to possess. Sees the Raze, can't quite land the shots. Sees the sky, but has that Cloudburst in hand while they see them. Can't quite respond as fast as they need, and now it's a little bit more of an equalized field here as Citron throws out their abilities to try to get those stuns in hand. Xandrith has to be the one to make it happen.
Oh, Seekers meant that the Empress was unfortunately cut short. And you've still got a guiding light, which will blind the breach. You hear the Q, you know that you can try and take the duel, but Tendy Time tries to get the kill, but Santa's actually able to recover. But even if you win, you just don't have enough time to go for this defuse.
It's gonna be Sanders trying to go for it, doesn't have enough time. Does get the kill on the Citron though, so maybe the economy is gonna be looking a little bit more equalized, although it doesn't really matter when the points are as severe.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Senators. The force buy is just a lot weaker now that we saw the Stinger nerf coming through, and the frenzy increase up with the price means that you also can't look for that to try and get you some early kills with an added bit of safety on your side. The Bulldog, rather the Judge and the Bulldog are going to be coming out for this team, as they know every little bit of economy they've got to put into this round. There's no use squirreling money away for the next, because if you lose it, you've lost the series.
Very true. We will be seeing, or there will be knives as a possibility for Wild Taco. Sounds like they have already brought them out. Now we're hearing the shots come through from Off Your Feet, just trying to peek through any walls or get bullets through any walls that they may have. Firegrad not able to land the shots with the Bulldog. Instead, will be taking a header from the Vandal of Citron. Now a Wild Taco, and they have to be playing very carefully. Gets caught out by that orbital strike, pushes right into the team of Off Your Feet, and that's an uncomfortable position to be in. Iceberg gets pushed back a little bit, can't really get into sight of Hookah because of the mollies, because of the smoke coming through. And with this, it's looking very grim for Senators. Well, they do claim a few back.
Yeah, Senators were really hoping that that Jet ultimate would be huge, but unfortunately, Taco takes the exact same approach as the last round, and Khan was just waiting with the orbital strike to immediately cancel the flank out. Senators, they've got a Stinger, they've got a Spectre. You're going to be walking into and Off Your Feet who are holding on to the rifles. They're not even going for the spike plant at the moment, as they know they can just hold on for those kills.
One enemy remaining.
It looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Off Your Feet managing to get the kill onto Iceberg despite the wraparound that tries to come through. And Omnimite getting caught out by the recon arrow ensures that the attackers will take this one in a 13-4 fashion.
Yeah. Senators put up a really good fight. We saw a lot of a stronger defense coming from them, and that really does cycle back to Icebox, right? Where it feels like this team are just much more comfortable on the defense, because when it came to the attack, they just never really got a fair shot at coming into any of those fights cleanly. They were always spammed out by guiding lights, they were always pushed up with smokes, or had to worry about where the Yoru would be playing, and all of that. It means that you can't just rush onto the site and play your composition how you want to. Get that space, drop your Killjoy utility, the turrets, the nanoswarms, all to make sure that Off Your Feet don't get to go for a clean recontest. The second that the sides swap, you get those couple of seconds where you are the ones to get that set up, where you can drop your Killjoy utilities, and we saw how impactful they can be. Diffuse wasn't able to come through. The Sova was cut to 22 HP because the Nanoswarm was right on top of where that spike actually ended up.
A very solid opportunity there coming through for Senators, although just wasn't quite able to be realized. And again, you mentioned it, Mox, but when you're put at such a disadvantage because you were kind of forced to defend first when you don't necessarily want to with your composition, or based off your opponent's composition, perhaps more importantly, based on how we saw off your feed running, it kind of puts you in a very tough and stressful spot that can further, I guess, create that stratification of mindset where, we need to perform this way, but we're tense, so it's a lot harder too. Overall, not too surprising there, but an excellent play still coming out from Senators. Much improvement over Icebox.
Yes, definitely. And off your feed, well, they performed beautifully. I'm always going to absolutely love to see the Yoru coming out. There's been so much talk about whether he's good, whether he's not good, but it's always nice to see teams experimenting. But for me, my heart is taken by Citron Sky. The guiding lights were just so aggressive, but the team leaned really heavily into them. And sometimes you can punish the Sky if she's playing alone, if she's trying to go one versus the entire rest of your opposition. But Off Your Feed really did identify all of the setups that Guiding Light could provide, and they played off it every single round. From the very start of Bind, when we saw those Guiding Lights coming down, every single one of them was impactful, and we did see her finally get punished for it. But it took a very long time for it to actually come through, and even then, Off Your Feed just didn't really allow the punishment to come through again, because the second that Citron did get pushed aggressively on Huckle, we saw this guy playing a lot more conservatively, trying to keep the guiding lights in the pocket for a little bit longer, knowing that now you're actually going to get bitten if you try and buck.
Absolutely true here, Mox, and we'll have a little bit more of the player view of things here in just a moment. I am getting word that we are going to be having an interview with not just one, but two members here of, I believe it's one of each team. So, folks, stick around. We'll be right back with that in just a moment. Hello and welcome back, everyone. Sir Waltham and Moxie here, sitting in the interview booth, much different than the casting booth, with Omni Mike and Tendy Town from Senator We Run Ads and Off Your Feed, respectively. So, both of you, hello and welcome.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
Absolutely, not a problem. Glad to have you as well. But I want to ask, we mentioned at the beginning of this cast that you were both Facebook teams. Was there, well, I'll start by directing this towards Omni. Did you and your team feel that there was any kind of intercompany rivalry, or that you felt anything was particularly on the line for this game, or was it a little bit more of a fun match because of that?
It was pretty casual, really. We have in-houses from time to time, so we've all played together before. It's just normally we balance the teams a bit better.
I see. And with that, Tendy, I'll direct this towards you, because that brings me into another question here. Do you think that, I guess, playing against Senator Rerun ADS kind of lets you have a little bit of an advantage there in terms of knowing how they play, as opposed to, if you hadn't had any experience with them before?
We were mostly just kind of bummed that we ran into our own team so soon in the tournament. We queued together a bunch for like ranked or unrated. So yeah, mostly think of everyone as teammates, really.
Oh.
See, that question actually leads perfectly into my next one, directed at Tendy Town. You guys picked Icebox, and Senator's team sheet specifically says that their favorite map to play is anything but Icebox. Was it that familiarity with each other that led you to pick Icebox first in the series?
We picked Icebox because we just scrimmed on that recently and we had pretty good results, and we honestly find that map really fun to play on.
See, I'm not the only one. And then over to Omni Mike, who probably is going to disagree with everything that we just said about Icebox. You guys actually fielded the Viper. Was that sort of inspired by anything that you guys saw in like the EU pro scene, or was it something that you guys continuously run, sort of a flavor that you guys bring to the table?
Look, it's a bit of a wild card pick. I personally like the idea of Viper on Icebox, and I think that of all of the maps that currently exist, Icebox is probably the only one on which Viper is really viable, in my opinion. So it was kind of just a bit of fun to see what happens, really.
And then leading on with the fun, you guys got to play against something else that we don't typically get to see in the rest of Valorant, which was the Yoru. How did you guys try and act around, especially with comms, with the fact that Yoru is all about manipulating that information against Yoru on Bind?
Wait, is this directed towards Mike? Or?
This is Omni Mike. How did you guys play around that Yoru?
Who was on Euro? Was it Tangelo?
It was Tangelo, yeah.
Tangelo, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose he kind of played Euro much the same way you'd play Phoenix. I mean, his fake footsteps we kind of just saw come out of the teleporter, so we knew that he wasn't actually flanking us.
Okay, well then over to Off Your Feed so that we can get a little bit of insight on why the Yoru popped out on Bind. Was there any specific reason? Do you tend to run that agent on that map specifically, or was it something that just came through in comms?
Yeah, we were trying to experiment with like using his fake footsteps to try to like get some mileage out of that, as far as like conditioning the enemy team to thinking we're somewhere where we're not. I think it was mostly so that we could teleport back after making noise on a site on an offense and be able to be back with the team.
And then keeping with you, Tendy Town, I noticed a lot of the time the way that you guys would play your defense on Bind, you had some really nice crossfires set up, especially in terms of keeping Citron on that sky very secure towards a hooker. Is that something that you guys continuously rehearse when you go into these practice matches?
I think it's just like if a player sees that there's an opportunity to set up a crossfire in game, we'll try to call it out on the fly, but we haven't planned out specific ones that we tried to get into round after round. Not quite there yet.
And then over to you for the last time, I promise, OmniMike. You guys said that you scrimmed each other regularly. Is there anything else that the team does to practice Valorant playing together and sort of like custom lobbies or teams that you regularly go up against for the tournament?
We play in the competitive queue with each other pretty often, but our team keeps it pretty casual. We don't have practice sessions or anything like that.
Well, certainly either way, it was definitely fun to watch your two teams go at it against one another. But before we do let you folks go, we'll start with Omni. Do you want to give you guys the opportunity to give any shout outs you feel might be necessary?
I'd just like to give a shout out to Sandra. He's our team captain and he helps organize everything. I don't think that we would have a team unless someone was prepared to go to the effort to organize it.
Well, fantastic. And Tendy Town on your end?
Yeah, same for us. Shout out to Josh Citron on our team who set it up for us as well. We probably wouldn't have a team if not for him handling all the logistics for us.
Well, much love to those members who are willing to go that little extra mile to ensure that, these events can happen. We certainly appreciate them as well. And we appreciate you folks for coming in here, answering a few of our questions and just hanging out in general. So once again, Omni, Mike, and Tendy Town, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And with that, Mox, we are just about ready to wrap things up. An exciting set of matches here this week, but we always have more to come here at CEA Corporate Esports Association. But until next time, folks, we hope you take care. Stay safe, everybody.